Hey guys, this is Elliot. Welcome to another episode of Can I Kick It? Yes, you can. I know Shanae is probably going to be excited I did that. But on today's episode, we have an extra episode for you, if you want to call it. We have a good interview with one of the up-and-coming coaches in U.S. soccer, Mr. Rod Underwood. We pretty much just talked about his playing career, how was it coaching at Montego Bay United, his time at the Portland Timbers and Sacramento Republic FC, and how that shaped him, and what's next for his career. So, trust me, you're going to enjoy this podcast. As always, like, share, review, subscribe. We're getting there. Thank to everyone that listened to our first 3 episodes. And yeah, with that being said, kick back and enjoy the show. On the phone today is Mr. Rod Underwood. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I can't complain. It's a good temperature today here in Richmond, weirdly enough. It's not super duper hot, so I can go outside and not have to sweat off everything.
Yeah, I'm up in the Northwest, so, yesterday we were in the 80s, right? Today we'll be back down in the 70s. So, we have our summer really doesn't even start July 4th, probably. That's what everybody says up here, and it ends about sometime in September, early October. It's over.
Oh, man, y'all got it so easy up there. See, here in Virginia, it's hot, cold, hot, deadly hot, cold. We go through like 12 months in Virginia, man. It's so weird.
Yeah.
But one of the first questions I wanted to ask you is, how exactly did you fall in love with the game of soccer? And how did you get started in it?
Well, I tell people I don't believe in things by chance or things just sort of happen, right? The story is, I was born in New Orleans, and then my dad got a job in Atlanta, so we moved up to Atlanta. And I don't know, I was 6 years old, 7 years old, somewhere in that range. And my neighbor, his dad coached American football. And I was going to go play on their team, but at that time, at that age, you had to weigh a certain amount, and I didn't weigh enough to be on the team. So, oddly enough, within a few days, a week or so, I walk into school, and there's a big sign up that says, "Let's play soccer." Who wants to play soccer? And I'm like, okay. And I don't even know what a soccer ball is at the time, right? I don't think I've ever seen one. So I signed up because, I'm at the age I want to play sport. And there was nobody around that wanted to. There was nobody around that knew anything about soccer. So my mom and her friend were, they became the coaches. And, the rest is history because, as soon as I kicked the ball, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And, be fair, quick history through life. I played all my life. Coached and played all my life. And I think I ran in 8th grade. I ran track because I went to school in Atlanta. There was no middle school, so high school started in 8th grade, so you went from 8th through 12th grade.
Mm-hmm.
But if you played soccer your 8th grade year, you couldn't play your senior year, so I opted not to play soccer in high school and ran track, and that's the only reason I ran track.
Oh wow, I've never heard of that before. Yeah. That's unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay, so that's how you started loving the game of soccer. But what made you want to start coaching? Like, talk to us about like your coaching experience and how it is. Because there's not a lot of black coaches in U.S. soccer. So how has your experience been, and how was your route to coaching?
Well, it's interesting because I really got into coaching when I was really, really young. We moved from the place where I started playing soccer to another part of Atlanta, in DeKalb County, right? So with all the stuff going on in Atlanta now, you probably heard about DeKalb County. It's been on the TV and everything else. So we moved to DeKalb County, and I started playing at a place I started playing at the YMCA, the Snapfinger YMCA. And so that's when I really got into it and started, playing. And then, I don't know, I was in high school. I started doing summer camps at the YMCA, and at the time they had like soccer. So I would teach the soccer because, again, You know, at that time, I was the only one that really played soccer, right? So I would teach the kids soccer, we'd have a soccer hour or so, and then as I started to get older, the line says, hey, why don't you do our camps for us? I'm still in high school, right?
Wow.
So I started coaching the camps, and so I started running the camps, the soccer camps, and then, I don't know, it was about 16 or so, 17, and I was refereeing, doing the summer camps, and then they needed a coach for like the U10, U12 team, something like that. So I jumped on and started coaching the team. I didn't know anything about coaching really besides just playing what my coaches did for me. So I tried to mimic that with 10 and 11-year-olds. So that wasn't very smart. But yeah, and then, you know, just through it all, you know, through, you know, getting out of high school, graduating high school. And I'm at the Furman University, so not too far from you guys, right?
Yeah.
And that was in the 80s. You know, I would do the summer camps. I would, you know, if I was in summer school up there, I would do the summer camps with the coach. And if I was at home, I would work at soccer camps and all those various things. And after college, I got a chance to sign a pro contract in Albuquerque, New Mexico, for the New Mexico Chili's, which is obviously helped, you know, lead the way for what you see now in New Mexico with New Mexico United and so forth. So, while I was playing, I started coaching at a club there, a youth club, and that was my real experience of being an official coach, really making money at coaching, right? It wasn't a lot of money, but it was, you know, there was an expectation now, right?
I mean, some money is better than no money.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so through that process, I started doing my coaching license. And by the time I was about 26, I got my A license. By the time I was about 26, yeah, I got my A license. And it was a very unique time that I was still playing. And then I got the offer to become the coach of the New Mexico Chili's in 1995, yeah, 95. So I'm telling you how old I am. So in 95, I started coaching the team. The team did really well. It was in the USL. It was in a rendition of what was the USL. Now it's, you know, was the USISL. Now it's the USL. And so we had a team, and at that time, you know, it was right after the 94 World Cup. USL was it because MLS had put off coming in a year, right? Because the MLS didn't start until 96. And that first year we had an unbelievable year. We made what was called the Sizzling Six or the Sizzling Eight. And just a little history story. I mean, Long Island was in it, and Chris Armas played on that team. Tony Miola was on that team.
Oh, wow.
There was a team from that was a team. There was a team from the Bay Area that had, I think, Dominic Kinnear, who went on and obviously still involved in the league and as a coach. And then there was a lot of guys, Troy Diaco, I think, who played in the league, and you know. And then you go down. There was a team from Carolina Dynamo, which had a bunch of players from North Carolina, Duke, that a whole triangle area, right? And there were some teams in between. And we were from Albuquerque. We were just a ragtag team from Albuquerque, New Mexico, but we were in the final. And we had to actually beat a team called the El Paso Patriots for the Southwest Division, which is now they led the way, obviously, for the El Paso Locomotive. So you can see how some of these cities have a history of the game, even though we don't really know the history because soccer wasn't important.
Yeah.
And so that's really how I got started in coaching, and you know, the success, right, of coaching led me to continue. And then, you know, I had a chance. You know, I was debating, right? Okay, I was still young enough in '96 to give a shot at MLS or coaching, and I had established myself, and I felt like, you know, I would get a shot, you know, at MLS. And, you know, because the reality was I wasn't a superstar, right? I was a good player, but I wasn't, you know, the national team guys that were going to make the money. I was going to be the guy on the $5,000, $10,000, $12,000 a year. And, you know, I was making way more than that between doing youth coaching camps and coaching a pro team. So, and I had a family at the time, so it just wasn't financially viable to try to continue and play and continue and play in MLS. And MLS came around in '96, so I kept coaching.
So one question I want to ask you that you brought up is that you got your A license at a pretty young age, right? Um,
Yeah.
what is the experience like of going to get your A license, and like, is there any difference between getting your A license when you got it and today, like 2020?
Oh, it's totally different, man. I mean, you would go for like a week, right? At the license, you would basically wake up, eat breakfast on the field or in the classroom from, early morning till late night, and do that for, 5, 6, 7 days in a row.
Wow.
And you'd have to coach sessions, classroom sessions, do orals, examinations, chalkboard sessions, video. We didn't really do video sessions at the time. It was just chalkboard, a dry erase marker on the board. That was about it. It was closer to chalkboard than dry erase marker, man. And so now, I mean, it's totally different. Now it's like it takes you, I think the class is 6, 8 months, right?
Wow.
And then, I think ultimately it's close to a year by the time you're all said and done, you get your A license. It's totally different because you go 2 or 3 different visits to certain training centers, and then they come and see you work in your area. You have to write, and you write these. Basically, in some cases, it looks like a dissertation, right? It's so much work, so much video, so much, which is a positive, right? It's just super expensive, so it kind of puts out a lot of potentially good coaches who are trying to work their trade, and they don't have the money to pay to go to these courses, right? And they can't take off time from work to go to these courses. So it is good in that way that it's long, but it's also financially prohibitive too, because some people just can't afford it, even though they might be a good coach.
Do you see that as more of like a roadblock in hindering the growth of like U.S. coaches and like trying to get more people?
Man. No, that's an understatement. I mean, look, I'm like, when I always say this, right? I am a huge supporter of U.S. soccer, of the fundamental way that they want to help soccer, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a difference in, right, believing in their fundamental way that they want to help soccer, but putting processes in place that move those fundamental ideas forward for the betterment of the overall population, not just a segment of the population. That's a huge difference. So I have no qualms with the fundamental premise of U.S. soccer. I mean, you might ask me, I'm a supporter of U.S. soccer, but I'm also understanding that we must put processes in place that allows anyone and everyone from any social economic background to have a chance to have a pathway to go after their goal and their dream to be a coach.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, also in your coaching career, you have a great coach career. For anyone that's interested, we'll put a link down below to like your web page and everything. But you also spent time in Montego Bay United, and how was that experience? And you also did, some coaching in CONCACAF. How was all of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, Montego Bay United was very interesting. Before I had worked in the Caribbean, before I had worked in Trinidad and Tobago in the middle 2000s. So I had some experience with working in that environment. And so when the chance came up to go to Montego Bay, I was, as a coach, right, in between opportunities, I was finishing up a contract in one place and, looking for the next. And so that came up and the opportunity was there. My goal was, I was brought in to be technical director and head coach. And, I was going to those countries because I'd been to places. I'd been to Africa and I'd been to, Caribbean before. And, I've seen what it's like to be in environments where it's, developing country or country with not a lot of money. So you know what you're getting into. Well, you have to know what you're getting into or you'll be, it'll be more difficult than it's always going to be. But I had some quality players, man. I had some players that have played in the Gold Cup for the national team of Jamaica, and we had some players that leave our club that go on and play in the USL and have shots in MLS. So we had some quality players, But I came in at a time, and just come off 2 championships, too, back to back, right?
Yeah.
So that's always asking for trouble for a new coach coming in, right? Because you already won 2 championships, right? And the team was on the aging side, so I was asked by the ownership to come in and get younger, right? And so we tried to get younger, and we did get younger. We had some decent players. But the CONCACAF experience was very good, and to be an American, not coaching a U.S.-based team, and have the experience of coaching in CONCACAF was fantastic for me, because the way it works in the Caribbean is that you have 2 groups in the Caribbean, and we got a chance to host one group, and the winner of the group goes on and plays the winner of the other group, and that winner of the group goes into what is now what you see today, where you have a chance at playing a Central American team, or playing an MLS team, or playing a Mexican team. But we finished second in the group, I believe, so we didn't have that opportunity. But it was a great experience because we got a chance to host, right? Mm-hmm. So you can imagine that pressure, right? We host and we don't qualify, man. I wasn't liked very much, but that's part of the game, right? That's all part of the game. But yeah, I mean, great experience to coach against other Caribbean teams and quality teams, and some of those teams had players going in USL and so forth. So. Fantastic. I mean, I wouldn't change that for anything to say I don't know if there is or there isn't, but to be one of the only Americans to coach a non-MLS, a non-US based team in CONCACAF qualifying is something special for me. So
yeah, that has to be a high honor. Is there any memorable players or moments that stick out to you from your time in Montego Bay United?
Players. I mean, we had some good players. We had this guy, Owain Gordon. He's now currently, he's either, I can't remember, he's been in OKC, Tulsa, or San Antonio. He's been in all those places, so I don't know. But he was a player that was up and coming, and really had some opportunities for a national team. So that was one of the players, memorable experiences. And Jamaica, the country is crazy for soccer, crazy for football. I mean, we were in Montego Bay, which is in the western part of the country. And so whenever you went to Kingston, that was interesting, man, because the passion, right? It's, you would be, you go to Kingston, that's the most, we were only 2 clubs in the West, and that was us and a club called Reno, which is a town in Reno, in Jamaica. And everybody else was pretty much in the Kingston or heading to Kingston area. So, there were clubs that were 2 miles apart in Kingston. And so it was very, very, very territorial. So whenever we came to Kingston, we were the outsiders, and the experience, the passion of the crowd, all those things were just absolutely unbelievable. We went to I can't remember the club now. It was a playoff game, and we went, and basically we needed to have bodyguards with us to get out of the stadium if we won the game. Put it that way.
Oh my gosh, that is intense. That is intense.
Man. So we go down a goal, and we went down a goal, and then we come back and we go 1-1, and we have a free kick probably about under 5 minutes to go in the game, and we just skimmed the post. We would have gone 2-1 up to win the game. We tied 1-1, but it was a great game. It was a fun game, and that was just like a really exciting experience. I mean, even with all the stuff you had to be careful about off the field to get out of there, right away. But that's part of that. But that's part of living in countries like that when you're talking about football.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, also in your coaching career, you came back to the United States, kind of where you're living at now, the Northwest, and you spent time at the Portland Timbers and Sacramento Republic, teams respectively in MLS and USL. Can you talk to us about what made you want to move back to the U.S. and coach here, and what's some of the differences between coaching in USL and MLS, respectively?
Well, Portland is a unique situation for me because I actually went to Portland I was the assistant coach in 2007 and 2008, and was it 8? Somewhere in that range, 7 or 8. 2007, 2008, as the assistant coach under Gavin Wilkinson, who now is the president of the Portland Timbers, president of soccer for the Portland Timbers. So he brought me in then. I spent 2 years there, and that was great. I mean, we were one of the few teams, right, that we were one of the few teams that really drew a crowd, and we really drew the best crowds when we played Seattle or we played Vancouver, that same Northwest rivalry, right? And so that was unbelievable. We were really laying the groundwork for what you see today in these in the MLS with these, all the other clubs. Really important. It's one of the most important clubs in my mind. People might doubt me, but Portland's one of the most important clubs in U.S. soccer because of what they've done with their fan base, what they've done with their community support, what they've done simply, to sell out every single MLS game in the history, right? Mm-hmm. They've sold out every single MLS game. So that's important. That's important for soccer in America. It's super important. And so I was involved in everything with Portland Timbers, from the first team to the academy to the reserve team to the U23 team. I was part of helping, one of the founding guys to help, get the academy moving forward, and that's always nice. And, the academy's still growing and up and growing. And Portland's always a special place, and that's what I consider lifelong friends that will be there in the academy and the city of Portland. And, Gavin Wilkinson, Maripos, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for those guys. And, it's fantastic. But to be in an MLS side is really special. And then Sacramento was, look, to be fair, I'll be quite honest, I didn't really even want to go to Sacramento. I didn't even want to go. It came about, I was in Portland and Sacramento made the agreement that Portland would, Sacramento be the feeder team for Portland. So in all of that process, I went down to Sacramento as the assistant coach. I didn't know Preki at all. Me and Preki had a few conversations, and we sort of hit it off, and then we started working together. Now, today, Preki's one of my best friends, and one of the guys I go to for a lot of advice just in soccer, and but going down there, right, it did feel a lot like what it was when I first went to Portland. I mean, the city was on fire for Sacramento. And I loved my time. And after saying all that, not really wanting to go, I loved my time in Sacramento. And some of the stories was like, I remember when the schedule first came out, and we were going to play LA Galaxy 2 and Chivas, right? Which Chivas USA was still in the USL, in the MLS, and so they had a reserve team. And I'm thinking to myself, right, it's a tough way to open the season, man, with the new team, a lot of new guys, a lot of guys with not a lot of pedigree, So I'm thinking, okay, let's just try to hang on, right? And it was, we went down the hill there on. I think we might have got 2 wins, man, or we got a split or something. I can't remember. Great experience from the perspective that when we finally got a chance to go home, right, everyone in the office was saying, hey, you're going to get 10,000. I'm like, man, I've been doing this a long time. Tell me you're going to get 10,000. Okay, right? 10,000 fans the first game. I'll believe when I see it, and then, we might get 15. The tickets are going like crazy. I'm like, 15,000 fans, man. I'm thinking to myself, Portland, we did that when we played Seattle, right? And that was like once or twice a year. You got to get your first game, new team. Okay, I was like, okay. And then I think we're going to sell out. And I think the stadium held like 20 or 22,000. I'm like, okay, man. So about, I would say, I I like to get the game really early. So I was about 3 or 4 hours for game time. I'm driving up, right? And people are already, man, parading and walking to the game at like 3 to 4 hours for the game. I couldn't even get into the gate practically. Parked my car. And I'm like, okay, I guess we might sell this thing out. You know, we're in the locker room, we hear the noise, and we freaking walk out, man. Stadium is packed. It's sold out. 22,000 fans, man. First game. And I'm like, okay, they were right, man. And then the season is just like unbelievable. I mean, one of the most memorable seasons in all of my career. And I've been doing this for playing or coaching for 45 years, man. And, you know, we go and we're playing, and, you know, we have our ups and downs as a new team, and we go on one road trip, and I think we'll win both games. That was like the turning point. And we just go on, and we're winning, we're not really losing, and, you know, we're feeling like, okay, we're in the playoffs. For a while, it looked like we might come first, but we ultimately came second or third or so, so we're thinking, okay, we might have to go on the road, but it worked out. We didn't have to go on the road, and we were thinking, okay, we're playing LA Galaxy in the semifinals, I think it was, and we're down, man. We're down 2-0 with like 20 minutes to go in the game, right? And this guy Rodrigo Lopez, who now he went on and plays for Celaya in Mexico and plays for another club in Mexico. Now he just re-signed with Sacramento this year, and he just takes over the game, man. He scores a hat trick in that final 20 minutes of the game, and we win 3-2.
Oh, wow.
To go to the final. But we're thinking, okay, we're going to have to go play Orlando City. That's right before they this is their last year in USL before they go to MLS. Okay, we got to go. And freaking Harrisburg beats them. And
That sounds like Harrisburg.
Harrisburg beats them, and so now we get the host because we're the highest remaining seed in the league, right? And we go on and we win the championship 2-0 against Harrisburg, and you know we get a chance to host the trophy in our first year in USL, and that was just like, I mean, what's so nice about that is, right? Fast forward to today, you know, pretty much all of us are gone from Sacramento now because it's the nature of professional sports. We're all staying in contact. Some of these guys, Preki and this other guy, Chris Melanap, who's the assistant coach at Reno, some of my best friends today, right? And players, it's not just like staying in contact because we're on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. It's like literally staying in contact, right? Mm-hmm. Today, and it was just a special time, and then I helped start the Sacramento Academy, right? And I always like to tell sort of the highlights. And first tryout, we had freaking 700 players show up to try out for the academy. Yeah.
And your first in that year for Sacramento Republic, that was in 2014, correct?
14, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So, little fun fact: we have another podcast, River City '93, and for the Richmond Kickers, and we actually broke down that game between Sacramento Republic and Richmond Kickers, and it was kind of like weird to hear you break it up now. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I think Richmond beat us. I think we lost to Richmond.
Yeah,
we lost to tie.
It is weird because there's so many players in that game that went on to go play in the MLS. Like now, I think the Atlanta United game had 2 or 3 players from that Richmond Kickers and Sacramento game that were starting opening night for MLS in 2020.
Oh wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, so that's a unique story. But yeah, go ahead and finish your point. My fault. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's cool. No, that's cool, man. But yeah, man, those two experiences, Portland, and I mean, here's the thing I like to look at, right? I look at, I've had a chance to work at, one of the most important clubs in with the Timbers and also, with the Republic, one of the up-and-coming clubs, and, they've been accepted in the MLS, and so hopefully, I just say, I played my part, right, in helping them get where they are today. Not like I had a huge part, but I played my part, whatever piece that was to help, and I'm glad I was able to do that.
Wow, that's amazing. Another thing in your career that stuck out to me that I was looking at is that you spent time as an international scout. How do you become an international scout? How was that experience? And I'm also going to ask this: was there any famous players that you helped scout in the process?
Yeah, I mean, the international scout was very unique because a friend of mine who I worked with, Alex Palmer, he was a Dutch American, and he got right, but isn't like the majority that they could see a pathway forward to have a chance to get into the game at the highest level possible.
So I have two more questions I want to ask you. Well, maybe three. One, like you mentioned to, alluded to, being a black coach in the state of U.S. soccer, how is that experience? Because, I mean, we started to see a couple of more starting to come up. Here in Richmond, we had David Bulow. Then in Hartford, you have a black coach there, FC Tulsa, Colorado Rapids, and also Real Monarchs. But how is that experience? Is it a very tight knit group? Is it kind of like that thing where you see another black head coach and you're like, "Oh my gosh, hey, what's up, man?" Or is it, how is it, being in that fraternity?
Well, I'll say it like this, and this is personal. The job as the general manager of Canberra. Canberra at the time was in the second division, and they've gone up and down between the Eredivisie and between the Eredivisie and the second division. They've kind of fluctuated that because it's not a big club, right? We Feyenoord, Ajax, PSV, those are the clubs that really are the big clubs in Dutch football. But yeah, my job was to set up a network of people to scout in America, and my job was to get a network to find players that way. In Holland, it's really difficult to get foreign players in because when I worked when I worked there, a foreign player had to make a minimum amount, and you had to have access to get an EU passport. If not, you had to go first, go to another country where they didn't really require that and get some experience, and then you could come back to that club. So it was not an easy process, right? My job was to offer up those kind of players and hopefully get those players in. And it was really interesting because I got a chance to communicate with Alex on a regular basis and recommend players and no real famous players, but my job was to create and evaluate players and provide the most information I could about players to the club, and then the club would then do their due diligence and really identify those players. But what really has really changed with that, what really helped in that international scouting option was now I do some consulting and I scout now for clubs all over the world. Like, I do some work in Egypt, I do some work in Ghana. So I help and I'm working on some things where potentially working for Asian players. And I'm not an agent because I'm a coach. That's what I do. I coach. But because of that international scout, so many people reach out to me that now I can say, hey, yeah, this player is a MLS player, USL player. I think he can go to Holland and get a shot. I think he can go to some country and get a shot, or I think he needs to go here first to go there. And then I help clubs, smaller clubs around the world because of the scout. I help them set up their technical plans, their methodology, their game models, all those things. So that international scouting has opened up so many other doors to the game. So those are kind of the things that I do. And obviously, with the pandemic, I haven't gone anywhere around the world to help those clubs and do those clubs to those things. I'm stuck. I was actually right when international travel closed. I was on my way to Egypt, and luckily I hadn't got on the plane yet, so I got grounded real quick. So,
oh man, that's unfortunate to hear. So, what's next for your career? Do you want to get back into being the head coach and running a program day in, day out, or do you like the feel of the international, being like a scout and just be able to go this place and that place? Like, what's next for Rod Underwood?
I mean, what's next for me, man, is I want to be a head coach. I mean, once when when Gavin Wilkinson came to me back in, this was 2013, yeah, this, you know, it started like when he first came to me in like late summer, or just, yeah, August of 2013, came to me and he said, hey, Rod, I trust you, Merritt trusts you, Caleb Porter, they all respect you, and they really want you to go to Sacramento. And I'm just sitting in the car in the parking lot, and getting ready to head down to training. And I said, no, I don't want to go. That's exactly what I said. And he says, okay, think about it. So I thought about it, and I called him back, and I said, I'll go. But, I said, hey, look, I'm going because I want to do first-team football. I want to be involved in football, and I want to be back as a head coach. And so that's my goal. I want to lead a team. I enjoy the technical side, developing and all that, but the pressure of the day-to-day, leading a club, and having to prove yourself every single time you walk on the field, that's what drives me. That every time I walk on the field, every training session has to be its best. Every time I communicate with a player, I got to be at my best. Every time I walk into the field, there's only one option, that's to win the game. That's the pressure that I thrive on as a player and as a coach and in life, really, right? And that's really what I enjoy. And, I definitely want to get back into it and lead a team and lead a club and do some very important things and be an influencer, right? Because, look, as we opened up and we said, hey, there's very few black coaches, right? And I've been doing this a long time. I'm like any other coach. I want to win everything. I want to coach the best players. I want to coach at the highest level. But I want to make sure that I influence and impact and create a pathway for that next generation of coaches who doesn't look like the guy, right? This is not like, I've heard this or someone said this. This is personal feeling and just what I have sensed over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and let me take a step back. Actually, when I became the academy director for Sacramento, one of the first things I said to the media when I got involved was that I want our players to look like our city, so to be diverse. I'm saying I'm going to go out and find a Russian player, a black player, a Mexican player just because they are. No, the best of the best thing to be there. It's like I want my coaching staff to be a reflection of our city. So therefore, what I want to see is at the elite level and at every level, if our players and our coaches reflect the diversity in our cities across the country, it should make its way up to the top level, reflect the diversity of our city, of our country, of all of our cities in our country. That's what I think. But the dynamic that it is, it's like, you're happy when a black coach gets the job. But then you also, my personal feeling is like, because it's so hard to get the job, you're happy. And then on the same token, it's like, okay, I hope he does well, because if he doesn't, I doubt very seriously if the club's going to hire 2 black coaches in a row.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate.
That's my personal feeling. That's not, I can't say that's true, and I'm just saying that's my personal feeling, how I feel.
Yeah.
Not that I haven't documented proof that says anything that's true or not.
Yeah, I think we all kind of feel that feeling of, I kind of equated to like how the NFL, I think it was around like the early 2010s, where they were trying to hire more minority coaches, and Tony Dungy kind of brought up the point of how, it's kind of on every black coach once they get hired to do really well. And if they do really well, then, it kind of shows like, hey, we can perform well in this area, but, it's kind of like real life. If they do poorly, do we get another opportunity? Do we have to wait another 3-4 years down the road to get this another shot? Yeah.
And to put that in a context, right? In that context, right? I look at and again, I'm talking personal experience, how I feel, not what I know and someone said or how I've been treated. I'm saying how I feel, right? And what I tell everybody is, no matter what I say, no matter what I do, if someone tells me how they feel, I can never discount anyone's feelings. That's just disrespectful, right? So I might not believe your feelings, but I'm saying I can never say I doubt your feelings. I might not agree with your feelings, best way to put it, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I look at my own personal career. Going as far as I did in 95, my first year, and I can document it. Then in 96, we didn't make the playoffs, and then 97 we won the USL championship, right? And then in 98, we were one of the last teams to be promoted into, post-promotion relegation after winning, the D3 championship in the USL, or the USISL, whatever it's called at the time. We got promoted to the A League, and we struggled because we didn't have any money, right? And then that was 97, and then, 97 won 98, 98, we didn't do well in the A League, but we were a no budget team, right? And we had no players. And halfway through the season, the club ran out of money, and they dropped the best players and they kept the cheapest players. So we played out the year. I mean, I actually had to sign myself, and I played the last 8 games. I had played competitive football in almost 2 years. So just to make up the numbers, right? That was the situation in 98, and then in 99. And then in 99, I went to the South County Shamrocks, which we made the playoffs, and we played Roanoke, Virginia, in the first round. We got beat. I think we got beat 1-0, 2-1. But it was a fair game. It was. I mean, I have no complaints about that. And then from basically 2000 to 2000 and before I went to Timbers in 2007. I was out of the pro game. I was just young youth. Couldn't get a job for the life of me, man. After coming off the championship, and really from 95 to 2000 in 5 years, winning a championship and making the playoffs 3 out of those 5 years. And the times when I didn't make the playoffs was, in 98 when, we were out of money and, I was begging players just to play, right? I was begging players just not to talk to the media because the media's coming to ask us questions about why are all the players gone. And I'm just saying, you guys just, support the team. And this is what I'm saying in training, right, and behind the scenes, that just keep it quiet and we'll finish it off, blah, 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 blah. And that's what I was saying, And then, so for 7 years, man, I was out of a job. I was out of a job. I was just doing youth stuff, and I couldn't get a job. And I was sending my resume to everybody, right? And I was like nervous. I'm never going to get back in. And that's why, like Gavin Wilkinson, people can say whatever they want to say about Gavin Wilkinson, but I will always have the utmost respect because he took a chance on me in 2007, and he got me back in the game, got me back in the pro game. And I'm so thankful, beyond thankful, that he did that. He took a chance on me, and I really appreciate him and his family, because my family and his family are good friends even to this day. So and then and now after 2014, I went to Jamaica, and then after Jamaica, I've had some interviews, right, but I haven't gotten a job, right. So since really 2000, I was in Jamaica till 2017, maybe 17, 18, somewhere like that. I'll wait for that next year. Don't get me wrong, I've had some interviews, right? But I haven't gotten the jobs. It's gotten more competitive. I'm all about that. But I just feel like, personally, look, I'm a guy that says, I don't believe that anything we are deserved to be handed to you, to earn everything. But I also will say that people with less resumes and experience and wins as a player and as a coach are getting jobs, and I'm not. So I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just speaking fact. I'm just speaking fact. That's all I'm saying is, I'm just simply speaking fact that I feel like I'm using I feel, right? Because I'm saying my feelings, and you can agree with my feelings or not. Anybody listening to this can agree with my feelings or not. I feel like my resume should give me a chance to be on a staff somewhere. Even if it's academy level MLS, a pro club, USL, MLS, I believe my resume is good enough to be there. Now, if I didn't believe that, no one else is going to believe that. So that's not an arrogant thing, because I'm not an arrogant guy. Ask anybody that knows me. I'm a humble guy, or I try to be. Maybe not my wife might say differently.
I think our wives will always disagree with us on how we view ourselves.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I think I deserve. Let me like that. Not deserve. I think my resume speaks for itself. To have an opportunity to prove that I'm able to lead a team to be successful at some level at the pro game in the United States.
Okay. So one last question. Do you have any advice for anyone that's looking to get into the game of coaching or looking to get scouted? Any advice for them?
If we talk about from the player perspective, look, as a player, right? A player, I like to tell players, look, you never know who's watching, right? You never know who's watching. You never know who's watching your training. You never know who's watching if you're doing an interview. You never know who's watching how you're interacting with other players. You never know who's watching. So always try to be at your best, because the way the world is, chances are far and few between to be at the elite. And don't get me wrong, the elite level is special. Only the cream of the crop should be at the elite level. So always be at your best. As a coach, your team is your canvas. Because I say this, right? I watch a game, I get asked all the time, why is that team doing this? Why is that team not playing well? Look, I can say, all I can tell you is what I see with my naked eye, because I did it with my naked eye. I don't know behind the scenes if at the pro level a guy has been struggling at home and his wife are going through a divorce, or he's been up all night because he's got a 3-month-old and the baby doesn't sleep. I don't know that. All I can say is, based on what I see, this team is not performing well, this team is performing well. I don't know the backstory to what I'm seeing, but what I can say is the reality is as a coach, every team, if you're coaching a youth team, if you're coaching a pro team, coaching a college team, coaching an amateur team, an adult team, whatever, your team is your canvas. People need to be able to see your identity as a coach, and people need to be able to see how you want to play, your playing style. Then even the person that has an untrained eye could say, that team looks good. That team looks good because they like to play the ball on the ground. That team looks good because that. So you have to make sure that your preparation, your daily preparation, right? Mm-hmm. And just like me now, and if you want to talk about the USL, I know the USL inside and out. You want to talk about MLS? I know the MLS inside and out. Because it's my job to be prepared when someone calls me and says, hey, we want to interview for this job. I should be able to talk about X number of players in that team. I should be able to say, this is what I think about the club. This is what I view the club. I should be able to say, not because I'm guessing, because I've done my homework and I've studied and I'm prepared. So be prepared for every opportunity that comes.
Wow. I think that's great advice. One last thing I want to ask you. I know I've been asking you a lot of questions, and you've been great at answering all of them. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up today's show? I know I've had you for almost an hour, but is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I would say this, right? What has been, because I would personally be remiss if I not speak about the culture of our country today, right? It would be unfair to leave this opportunity to say something about our country. Look, I grew up in the South, right? I grew up in the South. And to be fair and to be honest, I've had some experiences that have been based on race, that have not been good. But I've also been blessed that because I was a good soccer player, because I went to a good school and got an education, I didn't necessarily receive all of the harshness that a lot of black men have received. So I got a pass sometimes, but I do have experiences, right? I do have experiences. But what I will say is that we as a culture, we as a black community, right? Today, we need to use this opportunity across that we need equality. And when I say equality, I'm talking about the black community. I'm talking about the Hispanic community. I'm talking about the social disadvantage. I'm talking about the economic disadvantage. My wife's a social worker, and I see I see the things that she has to deal with on a daily basis of the abuse of every race, black, white, Hispanic, Russian, the inequality that's across the board. And we cannot stop fighting for everybody, but this is the chance for the black community to be seen and given the opportunity. But we can't waste it because violence, and people start to say, oh, they're about violence. That's what we always thought about them. That phrase, them. We got to show them that we're educated, that we have a way to do it in the right way, and that we get into public office, and that we get into education, and that we become leaders in business. Not just an account executive, but we become president. We become owner. We have to be, and we must be in decision-making positions to change this. Mm-hmm. If we don't, we'll be fighting the same battle 20 years from now.
Most definitely, I agree with that. I thank you so much for coming on the show today, Rod. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, man.
That's great, man. And you know what's been nice about this situation too is you guys. It's nice, it's nice to come and see other black people that like soccer, man. You know what I mean? It's been crazy, man, because it's like I grew up right now, the only black kid or the only black coach and the only black fan, and now it's like people coming out of the woodwork. It's like it's so awesome to see that, right? Mm-hmm. It's so awesome to see that, and that's really important.
Nah, man. Well, it's a whole community of us, man. But we just want to say thank you one more time for coming on the show for us, man. Where can everyone reach out to you if they want to get in contact with you?
Yeah, man, you can reach me on Twitter at Cut Inside, right? Cut Inside is like on the field, right? Cut Inside, shoot the ball, right? I just make it easy. Cut Inside at Hotmail. That's Twitter. I have my website at rodunderwood.com. Those are places where you can reach me, and I'm always here to help and have a conversation with anybody.
All right, man. Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, man. Thank you so much for reaching out to us again.